My name is Caitlin, and today I want to share with you my favorite books I have read about messed up families. I should clarify that I do mean messed up families affectionately. A messed up family book, to me, is where a group of people who are all related to each other, they work through either generational trauma or a high stress situation in really maladaptive ways and really, really toxic ways that usually ends up hurting both themselves and others physically and mentally. The vibe I'm going for is like The Family in Succession, which is an excellent TV show. I just finished it and I have not been able to watch anything since because it was so good. Or Shameless, that family as well, which I have not watched Shameless, so that might need to be my next one. That will hopefully help me recover from post Succession emptiness. My spoiler vibe is that I'm not going to say anything that I wouldn't have wanted to know before I read the book. For each book, I'll give like an overview blurb about what the book is about. I'll give a little bit of a preview of what happens in like the first 5 or 10 pages, and then I'll give like kind of an overview of what the general themes or like the takeaway from the book are, even though they're all super similar for this concept, because obviously there are some core takeaways when you are reading about messed up families and generational trauma. Anyways, I'm not going to say anything that would be better revealed by reading the book yourself, because my hope in making this video is that you will read the book I like. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually the book I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I'm about halfway through, and this is actually the one that inspired me to make this video, because I was reading it and I was like, man, I love this book. I love this book because it's about a messed up family. And then I was like, man, I read a lot of books about messed up families. And then I was like, I need to share that. This is my first ever Kristen Hanna book, also, and I am loving it. This book follows 13-year-old Lenny, her dad Ernst, and her mom Cora. Ernst is a Vietnam veteran. This book takes place in 1974. I remember if I said that. He's a Vietnam veteran. He's super impulsive. He's got a lot of unresolved trauma. He doesn't go to therapy. He struggles to keep a job because he has impulse problems. One day he gets a letter saying that he actually inherited a cabin and some land in a really remote part of Alaska from another man that he was in Vietnam with. On a whim, he decides, this is what I need. Alaska will fix me. I'm going to move me and my family to Alaska. We're going to have a fresh start, and I'm not going to be an angry man anymore. So they get in the car and they go to Alaska. They get to this tiny little town that they're going to live in, and it becomes immediately apparent that they are completely unprepared. Worry not, the other women in the town come up and they're like, we got you. We will help you get everything you need before the winter. You just gotta lock in and you gotta work hard. And Lenny feels really good about this. She's like, I think this is kind of what we need. This is the off of the grid, like living on our, surviving off of our own stuff. She thinks it's going to be good for her dad, and she has this really positive outlook and mindset. It becomes apparent very quickly, though, this is not a spoiler, it's on the back of the book. It becomes apparent very quickly that Ernst is not going to be fixed by moving to Alaska, surprising to nobody. He continues to struggle with his mental health, and he continues to treat his wife and child poorly. I'm not done with this one yet. Like I said, I really am only halfway through, so I can't say that much more about it. So far, for me, I think the big themes in this one are going to be isolation and how isolation can impact how you cope with different things, how different people cope with isolation in different ways, how much you're willing to accept from someone you love. My favorite thing to read about so far is how Lenny's perception of her dad is different from her mom's perception of her dad. I think that's super, super cool to read about. They both love him. They love him in different ways and have different expectations from him because of their love for him. I think that's going to be super, super cool to see how it all comes together in the end. And I think that this would be really interesting to discuss with someone who is like the generation above me, so someone whose parent is a Vietnam veteran, because I think there are two different perspectives you can take from this book. I think that for me, it's interesting to see the childhood of the generation above me, and I would imagine if you were a child of like the same age as Lenny reading this book, it would be interesting to see the perspective of your parents. Definitely interesting to read with different takeaways depending on like your lived experience, which I always think is really cool, because then that's a way we can like keep learning from a book after we finish reading it, is by comparing how our context shaped our understanding of the book versus how someone else's lived experience changed the themes they drew. I'm really hoping this one ends up being a 5-star because I haven't had a 5-star in a really, really long time. Okay, next is The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards. This is the first messed up family book I ever read. It was an assigned reading in high school for one of my English classes, and I haven't read this one in a super long time. I did a reread my sophomore year of college. I am not going to calculate how many years ago that was because it would send me into a spiral of despair. Even though I haven't read this one in a while, I want to include it just because it was like the first messed up family book I read that got me realizing that this is something I enjoy. This one is about Dr. David Henry, whose wife goes into labor in the middle of a snowstorm. The only people that are there to help with the birth, Dr. David himself and his nurse, Caroline. So it is the middle of this blizzard. David's wife is giving birth. One of them pops out, healthy, happy. He's like, fuck yeah. Second one comes out, his daughter. He looks at his daughter and he immediately is like, she has Down syndrome and it is 1964, so I don't mess with that. So, for what Dr. David thinks is for the best for everybody, as only a man can do, he makes a decision on behalf of his postpartum wife. He decides, without consulting her, to send the baby with Down syndrome with the nurse Caroline to be brought to an institution. Caroline drives the baby to the institution, gets there, sees that the institution is like a terrible, awful place. And so instead of dropping the daughter off and going back like she said she was going to do, she actually just keeps driving with the baby and ends up raising her as her own kid. So then the rest of the book is obviously about how the son that was born and stayed with David and his wife is raised differently and has a different experience than the daughter that was taken by the nurse, and how they are just raised differently with different parents and how they have different relationships with their parent figures. Like I said, I haven't read this one in a really long time, so honestly I can't speak a lot on like the themes and takeaways, but here's what the back of the book says. It is a brilliantly crafted story of parallel lives, familial secrets, and the redemptive power of love. Next was actually another required reading in high school. This one is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This one is a memoir, but even if you're someone who's like, I hate memoirs, I never want to read memoirs, you're going to want to read this. I don't typically like memoirs. I've started many memoirs and I always just am like, I don't care. But I think that's because I read celebrity memoirs and I just don't care about what celebrities are doing. But this is like, I can learn from this. This is someone who lived an experience that I could learn from. This book is about Jeanette's childhood, and the reason I say also that even if you don't like memoirs, you should read this one is because Jeanette's childhood is so fucked up and she goes through so much shit that it reads like a fiction book. The book focuses on her, her mom, and her dad. Her dad is really similar to the dad that I'm reading about in The Great Alone right now, in the sense that he clearly has unresolved trauma and deep mental health issues, and he's not getting help for them. He's just gonna treat his kids like shit. Don't be stupid. The book is about her relationship with her dad, who, when he's sober, is like this amazing, amazing man who teaches his children things and is just like a great guy, but has a drinking problem, so he drinks and then he's a piece of shit. Then there is her mom, who just doesn't want to have children and doesn't want to be a mother and just really is like, I don't want anything to do with any of you bitches, please leave me alone. And so the story follows Jeanette and her siblings through her childhood, how she was raised by these parents, how she was raised by her parents, how her relationship with her mom and dad both changed over time. This one also is a movie that has Woody Harrelson and Brie Larson in it, and for this being my favorite, like one of my favorite books, and for those being two of my favorite actors, I've never seen the movie. So if you've seen the movie, you should let me know if I should watch it. And if you've seen the movie, you should read the memoir now. I also don't know how much I can draw themes from this one because it's not like it was written with metaphors or takeaways like that in mind. This is just her very tumultuous life. I think the interesting thing about this one was definitely seeing how her and her siblings grew up differently. And another interesting part about this is Jeanette moves around a lot in her childhood, so seeing how the different places they went treated them differently. Next, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This one is about Mia and her daughter Pearl. They're this like really eccentric, artistic don't care about status quo mother-daughter duo. They move into this very desperate housewives-esque suburb of Cleveland, and Elena lives in this suburb and is a desperate housewife, or is giving desperate housewife energy. Elena loves following the rules, Mia hates following the rules. Chaos ensues. The book opens with a house fire. Like, first chapter, there's a fire happening, and then the next chapter goes all the way back to when Mia and Pearl arrived, and the story then takes place in between them arriving and the fire happening, and you don't find out like who set the fire, how the fire happened until the very end of the book. So it's like this one is definitely, if you like reading about mother-daughter drama and like mother-daughter relationships, this one's for you, because this one focuses a ton on Mia and Pearl, and then Elena and one of her daughters, and how the daughters have relationships with the other families, and how they like crave this validation that they're not getting from their one mom, from their friend's mom. And then it's also about how the moms just want to show love to their daughter but aren't doing it in ways that don't make the daughter just feel like controlled and not heard. But what's interesting is that like it has the mother-daughter relationship framework while also having that like who done it, what happened, I need to keep reading to find out what's going on. So if you're someone who can't read just like character books, this one definitely still has like a page turner reason to keep reading and find out what happened. Finally, I forgot to mention that all of these books, the latest book, like the latest setting time for these books is the 90s. So sorry I didn't have any modern day books in the lineup today. This is Malibu Rising. This is the messed up family book. If you want to read a book about a messed up family, this is the book that you want to read. This one also interestingly opens with a fire in the first chapter, and you don't know like what caused the fire until the very end, which is really funny. This one is dual timeline, so one of the timelines is about the Riva siblings in Malibu in 1983. There are 4 Riva siblings: Nina, Jay, Hud, and Kit. And Nina is throwing this giant end of summer party in Malibu that everyone always comes to because the Riva kids are famous. One of them is like a surfer, the other one's like a photographer, all this stuff. But essentially, they are famous because their dad was this super famous Elvis type singer in the 1950s. So one of the timelines is the Riva siblings, and it's the 24 hours before the party. So the entire timeline takes place over the course of one day. But then there's a second timeline going on that is talking about how Mick, their dad, met their mom June, how they fell in love, how they had all these kids, what their relationship was like over time. So this one, in a family drama sense, I think is more, whereas Little Fires Everywhere was like relationships with your parents and mother-daughter relationships. Malibu Rising is more of a siblings relationship book, and how you were raised, even if you were raised by the same people, you will still turn out to be a completely new person for many of your siblings. I had lipstick right there the whole time. This one also is definitely more of a, they're all keeping secrets from each other, and they all have like hidden motives, and so it's more of a like you don't know who, like any of them could have started the fire because they all have different like reasons they're angry about different things that could be motivations for that. So this one is definitely more of a siblings relationship, but it still has the like reason to turn the pages, the reason to keep reading to the end to figure out what happened. Okay, thank you for listening to me yap about how much I love reading about other messed up families. If you have suggestions for TV shows you think I would like, or movies you think I would like, or books you think I would like based on all of that, then please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you at least heard me talk about a book that you think you might be interested in. If not, then you will just have to come and try again next time, won't you? Okay, bye.